Hey everyone, it's Evan here from the Trade Risk on Wednesday, December 13th. We're intraday right now, and I thought I'd do a short video with some trade ideas, some setups that I'm watching in today's market. We're not going to talk about the market environment overall. You can watch yesterday's market recap video on the YouTube channel or on the blog to hear our thoughts on the overall market. But since we get a little upside pep coming into today with the Fed confirming on the rate raise, I figured it'd be a good idea to take a pause here and look at a few setups that are acting pretty well. Some of them might not be ready just yet, but let's walk through them. I'll sort of explain what I'm looking at. We'll start with the IWM, and I mentioned this in yesterday's video, in yesterday's market update. It's at an interesting spot here. I don't consider this, for me, it's not necessarily a high conviction long setup, but I do see the merits of a very sort of attractive or tight risk that we could get long the IWM with basically a stop if it loses last week's lows around this 150 level. So I'd give it a little bit of room, probably down to 149.50 or 149. And basically what I'm looking at here is a hold of this breakout area from October through November, where we consolidated sideways at this 150 area. We broke out pretty quickly in November. So if you missed that breakout, we sort of retested it recently, and it has been a little lackluster. We did note the underperformance in the IWM on recent in the recent videos, but if you look at what happened here, we bounced up, we pulled back, and today I think is the nice save. We're up 84 basis points. We're threatening to take out the last 2, perhaps 3-day highs here. So if we get a strong close, the stronger the better. Ideally, this trade, kind of falls apart if we close back below 152. But if we can stay, closer to this 152.50, we end the day up there. I think an interesting long setup with a tight stop gets you a trade back to these highs in a very tactical fashion. And then again, on that weekly chart, you can see here's the big breakout that we are emerging from above this 150 level. You might be able to capture a bigger trend that develops. So something that's interesting. Again, you might find some better opportunities with individual stocks, but for you ETF traders out there, I know there's a lot of people that like to trade the indices when something presents itself. I think that's interesting. So let's look at some other individual names. We'll start with Intel first, INTC. Now this is one that's not necessarily ready, but it's something to pay attention to. Look at the weekly chart here first. You can see it had this real epic run above $37, this big breakout here, really closer to $38 breakout of a multi-month, almost multi-year range. It had this sharp move all the way up to about $47, and it spent the last 5 or 6 weeks now pulling back, consolidating to some of these fast-moving averages. So if we go back down to the daily chart, you can see just nice orderly channel here. Maybe it needs to fill this gap, but if it holds here, even better. And if it can start to lift, it's got more work to do. If it can start to turn around these fast moving averages and get a breakout above, say, $45, depending on how precise and active you want to be. But for me, above $45, $44.75, that would start to be interesting for a trade back to these old highs. So keep Intel on your watch. It's not ready yet. If it continues to roll over and fill this gap, then there'll be no trade, but I think it's something that's worth watching right now. Next is XRAY. So XRAY is another one here. It's getting a nice pop today, up 2.4%. Let's look at that weekly chart first. You can see it had this nice base breakout above this multi-month, multi-year range. Traded all the way up to about $69. It's pulled back a few points, checked back, and retested that breakout area. And it looks like it's trying to get going here today. You can see it broke this very near-term sort of trend line. It held right at $65 where it needed to, and it's starting to get a lift now. So once again, I think you got an interesting sort of tactical pullback setup here, something that we're watching pretty closely here towards the end of the day. For you momentum guys that want some breakouts, like to chase some of this momentum into year end, these are the names that can really start to get a nice bid behind them. This is a smaller cap name, $9 billion, ZAYO, and it's breaking to new all-time highs here. You can see on the weekly chart, it's getting a nice clearance signal above all previous supply. It's up 8% this week. It is a momentum name. It is a chase right now. It is overextended here in the short term, but this is again for you active traders that are looking for some momentum, continued squeeze here, maybe up to a nice round $40 number into the end of the year. I think ZAYO looks interesting, and even the longer term participants here, this is a great base breakout play. If you're a longer term trend follower, I think ZAYO fits on multiple sort of time frames there. So that's ZAYO. Next is FLIR. This is one I've been talking about a while, just been observing this consolidation. There's still been no trigger here for a trade. If we go to the weekly chart, again, you can see FLIR had this nice run up throughout September, October, consolidated really through time, not through a pullback for the past 5 or 6 weeks. And you can see it's back to these recent highs here. There's no trade yet. I still think this has a little more work to prove, but if it starts to get above $47.75, $48, that could be your all clear signal to get involved here for a nice end of year run. So I'd pay attention to FLIR. And finally, last but not least, we have GMED. This is Globus Medical, probably a slightly under the radar name. It's a smaller cap, $4 billion market cap company. If we go to the weekly chart first, you can see it's had this big run up over the past month or so. It had an ugly looking weekly reversal candle, so I don't necessarily love what this did last week. But if we go to the daily chart, you can see a slightly more actionable and tactical landscape here, where it checked back to some of these fast moving averages. It reversed. It's having a nice day today, up 1.6%, trying to take out the prior day highs. Volume is light, but it's something that's sort of interesting here if you're a little more tactical, looking for again a pullback play for a retest back to these old highs and then perhaps a trend. I think it fits the bill. Wait for those triggers. If you are interested in playing any of those names, check those earnings dates, all of the usual sort of disclaimers. And if you like the ideas, do check out our Trade Alert service. We are participating in names just like these on a daily basis. So have a great rest of the trading day, and thank you so much for watching. Talk to you again on Friday.